Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 115 of the All Dolphins podcast on this beautiful Wednesday, November 1st. We're turning the page on the calendar. Number 15, our player honored representing the jersey number corresponding to the episode. I had somebody on the comment section tell me it better be Earl Morrall, who took over for Bob Greasy during the 1972 season. But no, sorry, I'm going to go somewhere else. I am going to go with Devon Best, wide receiver, undrafted free agent out of the University of Hawaii, who played 5 seasons for the Dolphins, and who from the start, I remember his first training camp, thinking to myself, watching him, that dude is always open. He's not fast, but he is always open. And he wound up being a very solid receiver in the NFL. I had some situations that kind of derailed his career a little bit, but very nice player, even though he wasn't particularly tall or particularly fast. But he was very, very well schooled in the art of running routes and getting open.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the first undrafted players, I believe the string of undrafted players who have made the team began with Devon Best in 2008. And what I remember is Devon Best's jail stories or prison stories, because what people don't know is that before got to the University of Hawaii, he was incarcerated. And that led to sort of the rocky and tough path that he had to the NFL. But Bill Parcells and the Miami Dolphins gave him a chance. He had a productive career, and right now he's still trying to get his life together. And he's got kids. I believe they live in Hawaii, and he's living his life in the retirement land. And Devon is, if we do start having guys on to tell their tale on All Dolphins podcasts, which is something we've discussed, but we don't really know if that's what's in the cards for us. But he would be high on that list, the guys I want to talk to.
Yeah, I agree. And then I had talked to Joan Junes, his head coach at the University of Hawaii, who was one of the coaches who liked to run the run and shoot.
A run and shoot. Mm-hmm.
And June Jones could not speak more highly of Best, even though he had the issues that led to him to go into prison before he went to college. And he was like, I would vouch for him any single day of the week and twice on Sunday, and great kid and all that. And playing in the run and shoot that led to him being very well schooled in the route running. So
Now,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish what you were saying.
Well, I was going to say let's move on to the news of the day, but if you had something else to add to
the run and shoot, which was one of my favorite offenses. It's not an offshoot of the West Coast offense, but it is an offshoot. Not an offshoot of the West Coast offense, which Mike McDaniel runs with a different sort of run element to it. But I'm just curious how much of that run and shoot versus spread versus RPO is credited for the evolution of where the game is right now.
I remember my first exposure to the run and shoot, as I recall, was in the old USFL, which is before your time, barely after you were born, with the Houston Gamblers and Jim Kelly, and it was a complete blast. I mean, it's basically a pass crazy offense, but a lot of fun to watch. Speaking of pass crazy offenses, the Miami Dolphins began their preparations for their Week 9 showdown against the Chiefs on Sunday. Practiced in Germany, -4 players, as we have the first injury report of the week. Head coach Mike McDaniel, before practice, actually like 8 a.m. Eastern time, had kind of indicated who would be and would not be practicing. The big news is that Teron Armstead did begin to practice. His 3-week window has opened. There's no question in his particular case, as opposed to Nick Needham earlier on, as to whether he'll be activated. He will be activated. The question is when.
Well, only you had that Nick Needham question. Everybody else felt like Nick had to be back,
except they didn't do it until the absolute last moment.
So the early elevations is what we're looking for now. It's a status symbol.
The early activation. Oh, but okay. Now that you bring that up, for those who were trying to project when will Armstead be in the lineup, could it be as soon as Sunday? I have looked at the research. The 3 players the Dolphins have activated off IR, all were activated following their second week of practice. That's Jalen Ramsey.
And Teron Armstead could be the one that breaks the trend.
Could be. but it was in the case of Jalen Ramsey, Jeff Wilson, and Robert Jones, they were all activated after their second week of practice. Again,
I think Jeff Wilson was the third week too.
If I looked at my dates, you may be right. If I look, but it wasn't before. It wasn't the first week. So that doesn't mean that Teron Armstead can't do it. I'm still not convinced it's going to wind up being this week, but certainly not impossible.
So I think we will let the week play out. We'll see how he performs in practice, see how he moves. Teron, obviously, I have a high opinion of Teron, and nothing against Kendall Lamb. I think Kendall Lamb is a very quality offensive lineman. He's a starting offensive lineman in the NFL. Teams will line up for him in the offseason if he wants to continue to play, which I'm not necessarily certain that's the case. I know he told me he wants to make 10 years and then that's it. He's good. But that will be year number 9 for him next year. But we're not talking about it will be year number 9 for him next year. So hopefully he's, still in the cards for Miami. But getting Teron back, especially in a week where you really don't know the status of Robert Hunt, who did not practice today, along with Durham Smythe, along with Raheem Mostert.
One more. Stayed in Miami.
What'd you say?
He stayed behind in Miami.
Oh, Brandon Jones. Yeah.
Brandon Jones. They rejoined the team. Whoa, wow. We're dismissing Brandon Jones like that? Wow.
Hey, he made some nice plays.
And maybe you're doing that because we should also mention that Javon Holland is out of the concussion protocol.
So. Yes, Javon Holland is back. He's out of the concussion protocol. Brandon Jones stayed behind. Alec Ingold practiced with his foot injury. Full practice. And Durham Smythe has an ankle injury. So more than likely, we'll see if he's activated and practicing on a limited basis tomorrow. If not, then we're probably going to be riding at Julian Hill, Trent Sherfield, probably Chase Claypool.
Trent Sherfield.
Not Trent Sherfield.
Tyler Kroft.
Yes, Tyler Kroft. I'm sorry. Tyler Kroft, Tanner Connor. See?
Oh, yeah. Elevation City for Tanner Connor.
I think it's his last elevation that's possible, too.
I believe so, yeah.
You got to save those elevations,
I'm still thinking he's going to wind up getting signed to the 53, but I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. I'm going to be wrong again.
Hold on. Did you say you think he's going to get signed to the 53?
Tanner Connor? Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe not this week. I think once they reach their limit of 3 with him, I don't think the move's going to be, okay, you're on the shelf, you're not coming back. I think the move's going to be signed to the 53.
And where will we get this roster spot that you magically want to create?
Kind of thinking Tyler Kroft may be on the way. I could be wrong.
All right. Well, so you got Tyler Kroft on his last days. Obviously, Tyler, that means you got to practice well today. Just practice well every single day this week. Show that you can help this team in some kind of way. And Tyler's got ability as a blocker. Now, what does that mean for his status? But we've said it all along. Mike McDaniel is kind of, and I know Poop is going to tell you that it's kind of, what else is he going to say? That's my Poop imitation.
Please, you're not going to go with he doesn't like cutting players because it hurts his feelings.
Yeah, I am going to go with he doesn't like cutting players because it hurts it. Look at what this team does. Like, look at everything they do.
Like what?
Huh?
Yeah, they're a team that's got great camaraderie, but that's still going to make business moves because they're for the betterment of the team.
Are you sure?
Oh, you think they're going to keep a guy because he's a great guy?
I don't know. It seems like this is a don't hurt my feelings kind of situation. Even Perry Nickerson, he played for a couple of weeks before he got the demotion down to the practice squad, and he was solid. He was decent. But this team they don't like to hurt people's feelings, which is
they hurt Perry Nickerson's feelings, and they hurt my feelings because they made me look bad because I thought Kelvin Joseph was the one who would get cut. So yes, I'm taking an L on that one. I was very convinced that it was going to be Kelvin Joseph who would get cut in favor of Jalen Ramsey being activated.
And Kelvin Joseph did some work on the practice squad last week in the game. So Everybody is earning their way. Everybody is toting their load. And to be truthfully honest with you, Mike McDaniel struggles to find practice squad spots. It's always oh, I don't know if we can do that because I don't know if we got the roster spot. And getting the roster spot requires you making some tough decisions and sending some guys home. And I just don't see Mike McDaniel's the guy who likes to cut players. He's like, oh, I know his family, I know his situation, I know his wife is pregnant, his girl, yeah, nah. And there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Somebody's got to be the bad guy, and that's probably got to be Chris Greer.
Oh yeah,
no, but does Mike McDaniel look like he likes to be the bad guy?
No. I mean, I think you're suggesting he's a kumbaya coach, and maybe there is something to that. But ultimately, the business decisions that need to be made are going to be made. I don't know. Again, I could be wrong. I sense Tanner Conner is going to wind up on the 53 at some point this season. I could be wrong. For the Chiefs, their injury report was not officially out at the same time as the Dolphins. However, we have connections, and Andy Reid actually spoke. I should spoil the beans. Andy Reid spoke before practice where he mentioned that running back Jerick McKinnon would not practice. He's dealing with a groin injury that's not believed to be serious. Another, perhaps more significant, one of their starting linebackers, Willie Gay, has a quote-unquote lower back contusion, which initially was described as a tailbone. And then when the question was asked whether IR was a possibility, and when that question comes up, that usually means that guy ain't playing the following week. And remember that the Chiefs are already without one of their other starting linebackers, that being Nick Bolton, who's their best linebacker. So that's something to keep an eye on. And as far as Patrick Mahomes is concerned, he's been dealing with a hand injury. Yes. Andy Reid says that's getting better. And as far as the flu that afflicted Mahomes this past weekend, Reid said that's gone. That's no longer an issue. So
that means it should be moving to the rest of the team at the present moment.
Perhaps. And the Chiefs, as our good friend Joshua Briscoe told us on the Behind Enemy Lines yesterday, indeed are not going to Germany until after practice Thursday. So if there's an acclimation advantage for this game, it's definitely on the Dolphins side.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel said he didn't have the math in front of him and couldn't produce the studies, but he studied that the teams that get there earlier have had more success, which is why they're getting there earlier. And the players had. Did you hear that?
No.
Okay. The players had the opportunity to basically go around Germany and see the environment, the culture. Tua talked about he went out there and he was able to get around the golf in with the number of players. I'm assuming they were all quarterbacks. Maybe, I don't think a couple of coaches, but mostly quarterbacks and specialists. Generally, it's the quarterbacks and specialists at golf. Not saying that others
not offensive linemen, no.
Not saying that others don't golf, but generally we know who the golfers are.
That's a good point. That's a good call on your part. I would like for example, Mike White, I would think chances are is a good golfer.
Yes, I believe so. Maybe Braxton Berrios. Hate to throw all the white players in. Maybe
not to say, detect a trend here.
Yeah, sensing a trend here.
We will start with
the golf list will be something that I get to the bottom of later on in this process of the season. The Germany golf list. I'm curious.
No, that's a good point.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, since it's the first podcast we're doing since Behind Enemy Lines, when we had the one with Ethan, which was taped before the trade deadline came and went. We should address the fact the Dolphins did not make a move.
Correct.
But Mike McDaniel made a terrific point during his press conference today. Is like, while certain teams got reinforcements by getting players from other teams, Dolphins are going to begin getting reinforcements very soon from their own injury list of guys who are going to be perhaps more impact players than the guys who were acquired. And we're talking Teron Armstead. We're talking Xavier Howard coming back. We're talking Connor Williams coming back. We didn't mention him. He also practiced today. However, he was limited. And then, of course, Devon Achan when he comes back. I mean, that's 4 pretty damn good players you're getting back.
You just overlook River Craycraft?
Good solid depth piece. But
Oh, wow. Interesting.
He's a good solid depth piece. So again, he's not an impact player like Armstead Williams, X, or Achan.
Okay. All right. Okay. I see where you're coming from.
We agreed on that?
I see where you are. Okay. Slight the River Craycraft. No problem. Gotcha. All right. Best blocker on the team. Guy who just understands every single route. Just overlook him. You're probably even thinking he might not. Oh, no. He got designated. So he's definitely coming back. You don't waste one of those
Which does not bode well for a certain wide receiver for whom you have expressed a certain fondness.
Oh, wow. So you just turned it on me, huh? Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Huh?
Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And it's possible that when River Craycraft does come back, Robbie Chosen, who took his roster spot, will probably be released. Maybe they would try to sign him to the practice squad. I know that Robbie wants to be here. He wants to be part of this team. He wants to be part of this run. So I wouldn't see that as an issue from that end of it, but it'll be interesting to see how that gets played out. But let's talk about something that Tua Tagovailoa said during his press conference that I found very interesting.
Go for it.
And it wasn't how I would say his name, which is still confusing.
His first name? Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. When asked about playing the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, he said, it'll give us a chance to see where we're at as a team going into the bye week. And in reference to, these teams that have won the Super Bowl know what it's like, know how to play on that level. And we dance around it a lot of times. Well, I dance around it a lot of times. You tackle it head on. That Tua has not won a big game in his career. And
late in the season. Then you may qualify that as a big game.
Yes. Some will say the Buffalo game win early in the season last year. I'm not Buffalo, Baltimore, and the Bills game.
Well, the Bills game, the Bills game, I would definitely the Baltimore game, and you could make the argument the Chargers games this year. The one against Buffalo last year, while he was a starting quarterback, the Dolphins were at gain 497 to like 230. So, so that's why I put in the caveat of late in the season.
Okay, late in the season, when the stakes are high, and I think one of the pivotal games that kind of set a benchmark for me was that Tennessee game on the road, where you're basically playing for your playoff future. When you stay in the playoff picture, lose, you're eliminated. And Ryan Tannehill and backup running backs, because that was a Derrick Henry-less team, beat Miami down.
You're right.
Clinched that game. In fact, that was probably the pivotal moment between Brian Flores and Tua's relationship, where Tua allegedly felt like Brian Flores was pinning that loss on him and basically said, allegedly, I have no proof of this, F you, to Brian Flores in front of the team. And that was the beginning of the end for Brian Flores, based on what I was told. So it's going to be very interesting to see, because if we're talking about big stakes games, and a lot of people will say the Dolphins can't win these big stakes games, and they're referencing the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo and the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia. I say that's not a fair statement to say, nor something that I would convict Tua for, primarily because those two opponents were title contenders and the Dolphins were on the road, and their strengths as teams played into the Miami Dolphins' weaknesses. Their trench play was far superior to what the Dolphins could counter, especially not being fully healthy in terms of no Connor Williams, no Teron Armstead. Now, I'm very curious. I spent last night watching Kansas City's games Primarily their last game against the Denver Broncos, a simpler opponent. I think that's where you get the best assessment of comps, even though Denver looked like a completely different team than when Miami played them. And what I found interesting is, Chris Jones, obviously everybody thinks he's one of the best, if not the best defensive tackle in the NFL. What I found interesting is that he moves across that line just about every single snap, to the point where you absolutely don't have a clue where he's going or where he's going to be attacking or what point, what gap he's going to be hitting. However, in this instance, for this game, if I were Andy Reid, who I argue is the best coach in the NFL, has the best coaching tree in the NFL, is the guru of gurus, and I would put him ahead of Bill Belichick, even before Bill Belichick started taking on water and people started doubting his greatness. I would argue to you that Andy Reid will look at that Dolphins offensive line, look at the Lester Cottons, look at the Robert Jones, maybe look at Liam Eichenberg if he's still playing at center, and say, Chris Jones, I know you like to move around. I know you like to pinpoint where you're attacking, but we're going to keep you right there in the A-gap and right in front of the weakest area of the Miami Dolphins offensive line. Now, my question to you is, do you alter your approach as a coaching staff if you're the Miami Dolphins and sort of create a game plan where you're moving Tannehill, where you're moving Tua?
Wow, you went there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Where you're moving Tua out the pocket and seeing and sort of guarding yourself or shielding yourself against their mobility?
Man, that's a lot to unpack here, because I want to add some nuance to the Tua big game thing, folks. This is actually going to be positive. As far as your thing with Chris Jones, unless the Chiefs blitz, you double him every single time, and I don't care where he lines up. If he's completely outside on the edge, then maybe you keep in a tight end to help out your tackle. Although if it's Teron Armstead one-on-one, I think Teron Armstead can handle him more often than not. If he's lining up as a 4-3 DT over either, your gap between the center and the right guard, or the center and the left guard, you double him. And if you're going to ask Robert Jones or Lester Cotton to block him one-on-one in a pass pro, don't really think that works for me. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue of moving the pocket and stuff like that. Be aware where he is and account for him. So that, to me, that's very, very basic. And you made a very good point. And I think the thing with Chris Jones, he's the best pass rushing defensive tackle in the NFL. I don't know that he's the best defensive tackle in the NFL. I think Aaron Donald's up there, Jeffrey Simmons is up there. But as far as pure pass rusher, for guys who generally line up more often than not at DT, that's your guy right there. The thing with Tua in the big games late in the season, the sample size is awfully small. That's the caveat that I would bring.
No matter how many starts he has, the sample size because of the big game situation is what you're saying?
Correct. And I would make the argument that, again, against Buffalo last year, at Buffalo, he actually played well. And the only issue there was Josh Allen played better. Josh Allen was like ridiculous that game. He was a difference in that game. It's not like Tua didn't play well. Tua played well. The first game against Buffalo at the end of the 2020 season, the whole team was a complete show. Drop passes all over the place. And as I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, just for no other reason than to pat myself on the back or to throw that out there, I wrote immediately after the game that a lot of the focus was going to be on Tua, and that was going to be completely unfair because it was a horrible game from a receiver standpoint. And the dude didn't have a chance. And some of his picks were when the Dolphins were in pure catch-up mode where he was throwing all the time. And even if it wasn't there, he needed to force it. The Tennessee game was bad. And then last year, the first two games of December weren't good. Frisco and the Chargers. And then the game against Buffalo, like I said, he played well. It's just that Josh Allen played better. So again, to me, still the sample size isn't big, but it's still his career. Like you wanted to, for the final, the stamp to where everybody, not one person on earth would disagree about the elite stamp, is to have a signature win later in the season.
Okay.
and I think this one is week 9. I think that might qualify. If he has a great game on Sunday, that might be the final step right there.
Yeah, this game is important for so many other reasons, more than psychological, because it also will put you in the driver's seat for the AFC hosting the AFC bye week and basically hosting the playoffs up until the Super Bowl. So this is important. If you look at the majority of Kansas City's tenure with Andy Reid, he's had success in taking his team to the Super Bowl, I believe, just about every time he's had the number 1 seed. When he's had to take it on the road, he struggled. But this is a different animal with a different quarterback. The one thing I will say is if you look at where you can attack the Kansas City Chiefs in terms of where their areas of weakness are, I think they're a team that you can run the ball on. They're allowing 117.6 rushing yards per game. Now, what I do find interesting is that they've only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns. Now, maybe that's because a lot of teams will always be in a pass-happy situation because they're generally trailing because they have to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs. But also the one area that does scare me and seems to be an area of weakness for the Miami Dolphins is third down defense. And it doesn't help that Kansas City's converting 47% of their third down opportunities. Now, I know a lot of that is Travis Kelce. I'm pretty sure if I look up who's converting the most first downs for the Kansas City Chiefs, it would be Travis Kelce. But that leads me to my question for you, Poupard, is we know that, and you kind of sort of touched the underbelly many, many, many months ago when you asked if Jalen Ramsey was going to be used as a safety. And Mike McDaniel looked at you like you had a third eye and basically said, safety? Why would we use him as a safety? He's an elite
great cornerback. Why would we use him as a safety?
What are you talking about here? Do you understand football? Like, he didn't say those things, but he was certainly looking at Poupard like he had a third eye and had no idea what the hell he was talking about. But I think Poop was leading to situations like this, whereas we know what Travis Kelce does. He's got unbelievable chemistry, harmony with Patrick Mahomes. And all they do is run option routes and drop into open zones, and Mahomes finds him. Play scramble ball, Mahomes finds him. Go in the red zone, Mahomes finds him. Well, part of the problem is you don't just necessarily have an elite defender with this that matches up to Travis Kelce from a size, speed, height, catch, radius standpoint. But if there were a player who actually did match up to him,
who might that be?
Pound, athleticism for athleticism, savviness for savviness, route recognition for route recognition, it would be Jalen Ramsey. Now, would you feel comfortable in Jalen Ramsey's second game back, coming off a meniscus injury 3 months from the procedure? Would you feel comfortable moving him from the boundary and putting him in the zone, in a slot position to defend Travis Kelce?
Yeah, and my question to McDaniel I didn't pull that out of my butt. Actually, because he kind of did some of those things with the Rams last year. They had a name for the role that he was using. A star, maybe. It was like a hybrid slot corner.
Yeah, it's the position Minka Fitzpatrick initially rejected when he was here. It's a star or the jack. No, the jack is the pass rushing guy. So
correct.
That's the jack of all trades. So yeah, it's the star. It's the star spot.
Yeah. So yeah, I make up a lot of things. I want to like I said, I didn't pull out of my butt and just throw it out there just to like hear myself to ask a question of Mike McDaniel. There was a legitimate purpose to it, and like you said, he completely like sit down. Sit down, you ignorant fool. What are you talking about? No, it would make perfect sense to me because this is the one guy. And I look back, I actually did a story on alldolphins.com on the last Dolphins Chiefs matchup, which was 2020, which had a lot of interesting nuggets to it. And Tyreek Hill was on that Chiefs team. And guess who killed the Dolphin defense that day? It was Travis Kelce. It was Travis Kelce. We remember Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek scored.
Yes, when the Dolphins made the very regrettable decision to have Clayton Fedulum try to cover him deep, providing help, and he just went zoop right by him. But that was one of his only 3 catches. And Tyreek had also had the game clutching catch on a 4th and 1 at the end of the game when the Dolphins were trying to make a furious comeback in the 4th quarter that ended it. But it was Travis Kelce. I think his numbers were like 8 for 132. And if you look at the crap show that the Chiefs wide receiver core is right now, you shut down Kelce or hold him to reasonable numbers. I don't know, 6 for 61 or something like that. I can give me that right now. I think I'd love that. They need to make sure Kelce's doesn't kill him with like 11 for 155 or something. And the person best equipped to handle that task is Jalen Ramsey, without question.
Now, let me ask you this question, though. You don't think that this is a task that Jevon Holland could or should be up for, considering now there are people in the league who consider Jevon Holland elite, one of the best safeties in the NFL. We know where both of us stand. No? Oh, yeah. Do you feel like Jevon Holland with maybe some linebacker help bracketing Kelce? I know this is the zone, which makes me very uncomfortable with Travis Kelce because all he does is carve up zones all game. Do you think that that's a good recipe for the Dolphins to put Jevon on him?
Or since you like the idea of keeping guys fresh to handle different tasks, or you take turns with Holland and Ramsey dealing with Mr. Kelce. And the thing with Kelce that makes him the most difficult and where they're most effective is if Mahomes is running around in the pocket like he does all the time, and then eventually Kelce will come open at some point, and then he'll find him for to convert a 3rd and 12 or something like that. But I think there could be all sorts of combination. It could be one-on-one Ramsey, one-on-one Holland. You could again with linebacker help. But I think this is where Vic Fangio is going to earn his money. Make sure you do not let Travis Kelce be the guy to beat you.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me address something that I recently wrote on alldolphins.com, which is my attempt at an apology to Vic Fangio for doubting his greatness, doubting his also wisdom, and my doubt that this defense would get their act together. Because as we know, they struggled for pretty much the first month of the season. But as the season has progressed, they've gotten better. They've tightened up on run defense. Bradley Chubb is now 5 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. He keeps his pace. He's going to be a Pro Bowl player again. David Long has been probably one of the best linebackers in the NFL in the last 2 games. He now leads the team with 55 tackles. And they've done all these things, becoming the top 15th defense in the NFL, pulling themselves up from the bottom. Started from the bottom, now they're here. They're mediocre, mid-tier, but I think that they can start trending upwards with Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard, Jevon Holland back in the lineup, a healthy Jalen Phillips, and you're starting to see either it's a evolution of the offense because they're blitzing more, they're twisting more, they're stunting more, they're switching up their coverages more, or it's a comfort level situation. Now, as I said, I was not a believer in the Vic Fangio defense, but now I'm starting to see it and see the fruits of its labor. But the question is, you're going to be facing one of the best offenses in the NFL, even though you did pretty well against Jalen Hurts. Not going to take anything away from you because I thought that defense did an admirable performance, even playing shorthanded. Do you think that they have what it takes to shut down Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, and a stable of misfits at wide receiver?
Stable of misfits. I like that. No, I'm with you. I'm like, and I don't know if it's more that the players are getting more comfortable with the scheme, but you made the good point of like Fangio is incorporating more and more little wrinkles to the defense week after week. And a couple of weeks ago, it's when it started clicking a little bit. You and I were both like, yeah, it's all great, but they're playing the Giants and their 17th offensive line, and they're playing Carolina and all that.
Yeah.
But the run defense against the Eagles was really, really good. Hurts hurt him in the passing game. A lot of it was, his ability to make things happen on the run. And that there are certain times, like my father used to say, the other team gets paid too. So other times you just go like this, and the other guy played a great game too. It happened. It's going to happen. And with Mahomes is going to make some plays where you're going to be like, could wind up being a 25-yard gain, and the Dolphins will have done basically everything right, except for not being able to bring Mahomes down. And you just go tip of the hat, nice job, Mahomes. But I'm like with you. I think this defense right now has got like some massive, massive potential here.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially with Cater now back in the nickel. Loving it. Really,
they've
really.
gone from 25 or 24 in total yards. They're now like 15 or something like that. If they finish 7 or 8 in the NFL, I wouldn't be shocked. I think that this thing is trending upward big time.
Yeah, the goal, I believe, when we began the season was for them to be a top 10 defense. Mm-hmm. And it certainly seems like they're trending that way. Hopefully everybody starts to stay healthy. They're stopping the run. They're getting after the quarterback. They're having a lot of productivity, and a lot of players are playing. So hopefully this continues to be the trend moving upward. Now, let me address one more issue heading into this game. We don't know who's going to be replacing Robert Hunt if he can't play. Obviously, No, you don't know if it's going to be Liam.
No.
Eichenberg.
No, I don't think so. And I think even though I would have preferred to see Williams be full today, I think Williams is, based on what McDaniel said before practice, sounds to me like Williams is playing. So I'm expecting Lester Cotton, Connor Williams, Robert Jones.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't hurt that these guys will have a bye week after this game. Mm-hmm. So all of those growings, Xavier Howard, Connor Williams, will have a great opportunity to gain some rest. This is an important one, and I we keep talking about saving players for the important stretch of the season. Well, looks like the important stretch begins today. It begins this week. Mm-hmm. So Durham Smythe. I know Mike McDaniel says he's a tough guy. He wouldn't bet against him, but any concerns that his ankle injury could limit his productivity, limit his role, and lead to more plays for Julian Hill, if not others?
Without having examined Smythe myself, I think I'd be inclined to think less than 50-50 he plays. So this is where we might get, and this is where the good news is that Alec Ingold was a full participant in practice. His snap count's not been very high in recent week. This is where I could see a major uptick in his snap count to make up for Smythe not being there.
Yeah, those guys, I call them the janitors, and Smythe and Alec Ingold, because they clean up everything. Mm-hmm. And if you really watch this Dolphins offense, anything that leaks in, swept right up. Holes, clogging up holes, and opening up running lanes. So they're very important players, and hopefully they'll both be healthy and contributors this week. Well, Poupard, I think we have done enough for today's podcast, episode 115. Big game this week, early start, 9:30. I will be on WQAM doing the pregame show. Fortunately, it's now starting at 7 and not 6 a.m.
Oh,
woo!
Yeah.
Get an extra hour.
I was worried about if you were going to do your regular 4 hours, like 5:30 a.m. That'd be like, oh man, man, I would have felt for you, man. That's rough.
Yeah, but we will be back here tomorrow, giving you more Dolphins breakdown, more analysis of what happened today in practice in Germany. For the All Dolphins podcast, we are signing out, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow. Like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, and you can find all our work at alldolphins.com. We will see you tomorrow.